Hi, in this video tutorial, I'll discuss a past paper question of year October-November 2009, paper 1 to question 9. The diagram shows a rectangle ABCD. The point A is 0, -2 and C is 12, 14. The diagonal BD is parallel to the x-axis. Part 1 says, explain why the y-coordinate of D is 6. In this figure, you have been given a rectangle and the coordinates of A and C are given. Further, the question mentions that the line BD is parallel to the x-axis, meaning it has a gradient of 0, and it's parallel to the x-axis. It's a horizontal line, and since it's an horizontal line, whatever the y coordinates of B and y coordinates of D will be same. Rectangles, squares, parallelogram all have one property in common. One of the property that is common is that their diagonals share a common midpoint. So the diagonal AC and the diagonal BD share a common midpoint M. So if I calculate the midpoint of AC, it's the same as the midpoint of BD. Midpoint of AC is 0 plus 12 over 2 minus 2 plus 14 over 2. So it comes out to be 6, 6. So 6, 6. Since BD is a horizontal line, you can say that the y coordinate of the midpoint is same as y coordinate for D. So you can say y coordinate of midpoint is same as y coordinate for D, that is 6. Further, it is given that the x coordinate of D is h. So D has an x coordinate of h, and we know that the y coordinate of D is 6. The question asks that express the gradient of AD and CD in terms of h. So express the gradient in terms of h. Gradient of AD can be found by gradient formula, which is (6 minus 2 over h), hence it's 8 over h. That's the gradient expression in terms of h for line AD. Similarly, I can also find gradient of CD, which in terms of h will be, it's coming out to be -8 over h minus 12. So that's part 2 done. Part 3 says calculate the x coordinate of D and B. So in order to calculate the x coordinate of D, which is the value of h, and B, so we have to calculate the value of h, and the expression for h is these two. So we need to come up with an equation that is in terms of h, and when we solve it, we can have the value of h. So this is a rectangle, and rectangles sides are mutually perpendicular to each other. Therefore, the gradient of line AD and the gradient of line CD, the product of the gradient of line AD and the product of the gradient of line CD must be equal to -1, and in this way we can form the equation. So I can say that 8 over h times minus 8 over h minus 12 is equal to -1. Yeah, so this is the same concept as m1 into m2 is equal to -1. We knew that the rectangle sides are mutually perpendicular to each other. Now when I simplify this equation and solve for h, I will get the value of h. It's a quadratic equation being formed, and when I simplify this, I get h square minus 12h minus 64 equals to 0, which on solving gives me value of h as 16 and h as -4. So 1 has to be, so 16, referring to the diagram, the positive h value is for coordinate D, and the negative value is for B because B lies on the negative part of the x-axis. Therefore, the coordinates of x coordinate of D is 16 and x coordinate of B is -4. This brings us to the last part of this question. In the last part, you are expected to calculate the area of the rectangle ABCD. Now, since it's a rectangle, you can find the area by just multiplying the length by width. Now, in order to calculate the length, you have to use the distance formula for AD, and the distance AD can be calculated using the distance formula, which is, let me write it over here. The distance AD can be calculated using this distance formula. So plugging in the values, what do I get? H minus, acha, we do have h coordinate, as the value of h is coming out to be 16 and the value of b coordinate is -4, 6. So the value of x2 is 16 minus 9, sorry, so when you solve this, you get square root 320. In the same way, you can calculate the length of CD, and if you calculate the length of CD, you must get square root of 80. Now the area of a rectangle is nothing but length into width, and this is the product of square root of 320 into square root of 80, which is simply 160.